I tried to make a video of this, but I couldn't. It just went too long. I wanted to address something that's been really difficult for me, and I have to be careful what I say because I'm live also. I can't re-edit things. I know a veteran. They're a friend of mine. Was kind of, sort of. Let me start over. Back in the day when I went to college, there was there's a veteran center to help veterans with their GI Bill. There's just, a couple employees in there in the college, and they say, okay, this is how you got to do your GI Bill or any of the other things related to veteran stuff to help you with your finances in college, because veterans can have a GI Bill, right? And I didn't know what I was doing. I knew nothing. And to make a long story short, I was always in and out of there, waiting for my paperwork to be done, days on end, so I can register for classes, yada, yada, yada. Me and this guy became really good friends. Just, hey, dude, what's up? Thank you so much. And we talked about our service in the military, and just became good friends for many, many years. Many years, actually. Over a decade, for sure, easily. I'll just leave it at that. So, for the past, I don't know, couple of good years for sure, they started to have a little bit of a problem like this, okay? And, so, for the knowledge I have and the things I've been told and whatnot, I pointed them into the right direction. I tried. You bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? If you know what I mean, that kind of analogy. And I've done this many times. They also have a health issue up here as well, okay, the ones I always talk about. And, I try to help, I don't want to say the word coach, but point in the right direction, and then talk about some personal experiences, saying, hey, I've been there before, try to make them feel better, and he just basically wanted to stay at the bottom of the barrel, meaning didn't want to help himself. And it's really difficult. It's so difficult. It's so difficult when, you try to help somebody and they just do not want to be helped. They just want to stay in that, and they just want that conversation for a motivation or hope, but they do nothing. And it's so difficult. It's so difficult because you want to force somebody, but you can't. And, I'm not going to force somebody. That's not okay. Everyone has to pull their weight. It's part of life, or they're not going to get anywhere. And anyways, moving forward. So last year, at some point in time, they were doing a little too much of this, and they were driving one of these things, right? And luckily, thank God, nobody got hurt, nobody, and it was just solo anyway, but he went into a ditch. Okay, fine. No scratches, nothing, but there was, he had to get things on his wrists, if you know what I mean, and be taken to a station because of the incident that occurred, right? So in that process, the individual lost one of these things, right? I need a new one. It's beaten up. Look at that. And inside that had documents, let's say stuff with numbers that you get from birth, and the other piece of paper that says where you were born, right? Well, in case people aren't catching on, or don't know, you need the one with the numbers, those security numbers, to get a job, typically, if I'm not mistaken. And he was let go from his job, or fired, or quit. One of those, something. He didn't have a job. Okay, fine. So now without the paperwork, right, it's gonna be a little difficult. So I said, well, let me do some research here. Let me get online, buddy. Let me get online. All right. You can only go up from here. And I went ahead and said, go to this website and do this, and then you go to this website and do that, so you can get both papers, right? And unfortunately, you can't do it at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. I said, you can try, but I don't know. I said, take a look at this. This is how I walk you through it, and you can, do it. And he said, okay, I'll do it a little later today. I'm just a little busy. Okay. Now, personally, knowing the person and whatnot, and I don't think the individual was busy. But anyways, again, last year to now, didn't happen. No job, no income, no nothing. Okay, so I'm like, man, you got to pick yourself up. I know it's not easy. Point it in the directions of saying, hey, you might want to consider, as a friend, through experience of understanding how mental health has treated me, you might want to consider talking to a therapist, but don't take my word for it. But I know that therapy has helped me. So if you want to talk to a professional about your problems, since you can't solve your problems, right? You might want to consider that. Okay. And again, we're friends, so we're really talking, right? Okay. You feel me? And it doesn't fully, the situation wasn't fully taken advantage of at all. Now, this is just really difficult to talk about, because when you know a friend, and a friend for me that is also a veteran, it is hard to see. It is hard to get those phone calls. Hey man, I'm not having a good day. I'm worried. I'm freaking out. And I said, there's the hotline you can call. And I called once for him. He's called a few other times in the past, by the way. And the issue is that, moving to now, is if a horse is brought to water and they don't drink after time after time after time, so many times, that what do? You try to say, hey, I'm telling you, help yourself. You need to, and pointing in so many directions and having so many personal conversations. It's not easy. So I had to make a decision, but I wanted to check something, because I know that sometimes when you do too much of this, or I'm just going to say that there's a lot of research done on the internet, and a lot of things that professionals talk about, that when there's an addiction issue, there are a group of people in it that no matter what you say or do, or what happens, they're going to, and again, this comes from studies that I've read, I've been told about, and professionals have stated. I'm not saying that this is across the board, okay? I'm just saying this is what I have read and have observed, right? That some people with addiction problems have a tendency in these situations, these studies, and what I've been told, that they'll do anything to keep their addiction. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And it's mind-blowing. It's mind-boggling. But I called the other day because they were getting evicted, because they didn't have this, and I'm not going to hand out, that fuels the fire, right? But I've done a lot of this on the phone with conversations, trying to help them out, relentlessly. And welcome to live chat, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So anyway, sorry, I'm reading what my phone's saying. I rarely go live on my phone. My computer is getting repaired, believe it or not. So anyways, I called and said, hey, how you doing? As in, you were kicked, you were already evicted. They're still there. And I'm like, they're not evicted yet? Not that, I would want that to happen, but it didn't make sense to me, right? I called in saying, you know what? I wonder. I just wonder. And they weren't on the street. So I said, hey, I want you to be 100% truthful with me. I said, I've known you for X amount of time, very long time. I said, and I've been truthful with you since day one. I said, as a friend, I want you to tell me the truth one time. Okay. And I've never called him out on stuff like this before, but that's how I said it. And I said, are you lying to me? I said, it's okay. I just need to know. Are you lying to me? Because you were supposed to be on the street today or yesterday, whatever it was, meaning those words. It was either today or yesterday in that conversation. And yeah, because I think I waited a day. And then I called the following morning. And they were supposed to be out sometime in the AM. That's all I'm going to say. And they were still at their humble abode, right? And it just didn't make sense to me because there was an order for them to leave. Okay, so it really hurt me. And they, he said, I'm not lying to you. Now, maybe that's the truth. But here is the hardest thing I had to do this year. All right, it's January. Is say, buddy, I've helped you. I told him that I've helped you for a long time or pointed you in the right direction, all sorts of things. And I said, I've known you for X amount of time. I'm repeating myself here. I said, you have not helped yourself. And I said, this is very difficult because I care about you. Hey, you're my buddy, my friend, fellow veteran. And it was very difficult. And it was a hard decision, to be honest. And I said, hey, I said, I'm going to be honest with you, after saying all those things. I said, if you're truly not going to help yourself, I can't do this anymore. I said, I can't take these phone calls. It's not good for me either, right? It's not good for anyone that's been trying to help somebody bring a horse to water, but they don't drink for a long time. And I said, hey, and I was being real nice. I said, but I was being very firm about this, saying, hey, I can't be friends with you if you're not going to help yourself, because this is hurting me too, because I've been trying to help you as you're asking me for help, this and that, and pointing in the right direction, but you're not doing anything. It's more of the phone call. And I said that. And I've had conversations in the past about this, but I, it's the nose met the grinder stone, whatever it is, and it's not just for them, but for myself as well, because, I'm trying to help out a veteran, but they don't want it. So I said, and he's like, hey, so you don't want to be friends anymore? I said, no, not if you're not going to help yourself. I said, I've helped so many times. I said, remember, there's always a hotline. There's always all these other places. I kept talking for a little bit, and I said, but if you're really not going to truly help yourself, I can't, because it's also hurting me as a person. I go through stuff too. So, it was a really difficult decision, but I had to be upfront and honest, because they still call. And I said, I don't want the phone calls. I said, I'm done. I said, if you help yourself and really truly help yourself, yeah, you know, yeah. What's up, Berserk? So, good to see you, man. But anyways, it's just it's rough. It really is. Like, and this person I've known for over a decade, easy. And they're like, so you don't want to be my friend? I said no. I said, I want you to help yourself. But if you're not going to help yourself, I can't be a friend because nothing's working. It's not okay for you. And I said, it's not okay for me either because, you know, I said, with respect, you know, not that you're, I said, in a way, you're not wasting my time because you're my friend, but you are wasting my time because I've taken out several hours and whatever for the past long time to help you, give you advice kind of stuff and point you in the right direction and be there for you on the phone. You're a veteran, you're my buddy, you know, what's up? And I said, no, man, I can't do it. I said, I won't do it. I said, you know, this is my health too, and it's not right. And yeah, I had to deal with that the other day, and it sucks, but it's a reality. And you know, c'est la vie, meaning that's life. You know, I hope they help themselves. I hope they get better up here. What I always talk about, that kind of health, and they stop doing this, right? And that's what I can say. Did he change? No. This just happened. This just happened recently. Not today, but really recent. And you know, good guy, jolly, the whole thing. But you know, it's one of those people that there's always something wrong. And I feel for that. I do. I still do. But you know, sometimes you have to let things go. You know, cut the rope, whatever it is, any of those analogies, and say, you know, I need to move forward for myself too, because it affects my mental health trying to help somebody over the years. And they refuse, one of those, to help themselves. And I feel really bad. And but it's the only last way to possibly even get through the person too. Sometimes it takes that, and sometimes it just doesn't work in the end anyway. So I made the right decision for me, and I hope I made the right decision for that person too, to where they kind of wake up. But I'm gonna just say it's a towing cost for that. Side note, Berserk, so I'm doing more of this, but I'll get to a live thing later on about this, or what I've been doing lately. And my PC is, I need either a new motherboard or power supply, and I'm taking care of that today, actually. Side note. And it's good to see you anyway. But anyway, yeah, I try to make this into a short. We're at 18 minutes and 20 seconds. That's why I had to go live. Super cold out here. But the point is, a lot of things, but the point is, you can bring a horse to water so many times, but if they don't want to drink, not only are they hurting themselves, but it starts to affect the person that's trying to help and lead that horse to water. And to relish and stay in that moment and keep helping when nothing, you know, it's like that definition of insanity per se. If it's what, you see the same results keep happening, but you still do it. You know, that's the definition of insanity. That's that's been said to me many times, actually. But that's kind of the analogy of the situation that's been going on. Well, I got a job and I passed my permit test. Hey, congratulations. But you know, that's all I got to say about that today. And it's a long little live stream on my phone here, but it's just rough, you know, saying, hey, I'm, you know, losing a friend probably, obviously, but I'm moving forward to cut ties. But the reason I wanted to put this out on a video is to have some mental health and veteran awareness, saying, you know, not to give up on somebody, you know, point them in the right direction. You know, there's always hope, but sometimes when a horse doesn't want to drink water and it's not going to work, nothing's going to work, I believe for my own health, I have to cut ties, because in the end, they're not being helped, and I am per se suffering, you know, uh, it's affecting me as somebody who's trying to help somebody, but they're not wanting help. So it happens in life. There's a lot of situations where this happens to so many people, whether it's the exact same situation or similar. It's a fact of life. And, you know, it sucks, man. It sucks. And fortunately, that's not the worst thing I've been through. For me, for me for the life experiences I've had. But, I truly hope that this individual, that he gets better. Okay, he's had a rough life, and that's all I can really say. I mean, I don't, give sensitive stuff and names and all that stuff. I mean, can't do that anyway, but I wouldn't. But anyways, that's all I gotta say about that. I needed to say that, whether even if one person saw this video and it helps them out, whether it's a present thing or something in the future, to say, it's really good and important to help people if you can, and point them in the right direction, or give them telephone numbers, But also, if somebody doesn't want to be helped over such a long period of time, it's hurting them, because they're not making a change. And maybe, just maybe, when I said we can no longer be friends if you're going to keep this up, and I don't want a phone call back from you right now, maybe that'll help them change their mind. And then in addition to that, it helps me, because I get to cut, I'm cutting ties to something that's negative or toxic, meaning, it also can affect me, because I've taken out so much time and there has been zero result, or 0.01 result, right? But not nothing, remotely, anyways. So that's what I've got to say about that. Being drained of your own life, yes, Berserk. So that's another way of putting it, because I care a lot about people who are affected by mental health. I care a lot about veterans, especially ones that are going through that. And hey, you can only help so many people, or help so much, I should say. And somebody in the veteran community high up, actually somebody I know, I have their phone number actually, but they moved up from a position of, let's say it's a veteran organization, and they were at the top in that building. Let's say if it was an American Legion or VFW or something like that, and they moved up to, per se, don't quote me on this, but the federal major state Congress almost level. And, this individual told me, you can only help somebody so much, but if they don't want it, you have to cut it. And there were many reasons, I'm sorry, they didn't tell me to cut it, but they said, choosing my words wisely here, you should consider that, because not only does it hurt you, but it hurts them. So sorry about that. And took a long time before I took that advice, but I had to think about it. I wanted to make sure I could help this one individual as much as I could, and say, I helped. I know that if I cut ties, I can say I tried my damnedest, my hardest. And for me, I did. So that's that. We're almost at 25 minutes here on the stream. I really want to keep it down, and not have a crazy video that's just talking in circles. But as for mental health, I hope everyone's having a good day, Berserk. So I hope everything's going well with everything we've always talked about recently on my prior streams, right? Right. But I'll get back with you on a live stream one of these days shortly, because my PC is going to be fixed here, hopefully today. So it's either a power supply or motherboard issue, and it looks like it's a power supply issue, but we'll find out here shortly. I can't take it to like a Best Buy or something. I'm not bringing it there. There's a million reasons why not, why I won't. So I have me and another person who does PCs as well. So I haven't built one in a while. So I trust it in other hands that are more responsible, and that I'm not responsible if something happens. So anyways, I'll catch you Berserkso later, but you know, mental health, it's a rough one, but hopefully everything goes well. So that sucks to end it on that note, but yeah, I'm gonna have to end it on that note. But it's bittersweet, and my thing is to move forward in life. I cut my ties on that, and you know, it's just one of those days. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be, you know, but I know later on today or tomorrow, especially tomorrow, everything will be great. So it is what it is. Hamburger. Yeah, hamburger, baby. So well, I'm not laughing at the situation, of course, but I'm just trying to get in a good mood. So I'll catch you later, and have a good one. All right, see ya.